Imagine this, you're 14, stripped bare in a freezing stone vault, shadows flickering from torchlight as calloused hands invade your most sacred spaces. A noblewoman's cold gaze pierces you, judging every flinch, every breath. One whisper from these strangers, and your world crumbles, royalty to ruin in an instant. This isn't fiction, it's the nightmare thrust upon Blanche of Navarre in 1453, her body probed like a beast at auction after 13 years of untouched marriage. But you, listening now, you're not just hearing a story. You're stepping into forbidden shadows, where kings and clergy twisted women's flesh into weapons of control. I've pulled back the veil for you, brother, because the elite have buried these truths to keep you blind to the chains they've forged across centuries. Virginity wasn't purity, it was a lock on bloodlines, a guarantee no bastard heir could topple thrones built on lies. In medieval Europe, where power flowed through veins deemed divine, a queen's hymen became the ultimate seal, proof of paternity in a world where inheritance meant empires rising or falling. They inspected, humiliated, and broke women to ensure no hidden seed disrupted the grand deception. But why stop at flesh? Superstition birthed horrors, sieves that held water only in pure hands, urine scrutinized for clarity and hiss, as if virtue echoed in a chamber pot. Physicians, those self-anointed guardians of truth, claimed they could smell innocence or hear it trickle. This was no mere tradition, it was a psychological cage, designed to crush the spirit, to make women, and the men who loved them, doubt their own reality. You feel it now, don't you? That unease creeping in, like discovering the ground beneath you is riddled with traps. These tests weren't accidents of ignorance, they were engineered by corrupt institutions, church and crown colluding to manipulate bodies and minds. Popes preached chastity while kings demanded proof, all to hoard power. And the midwives? Often complicit, betraying their sisters under the weight of indoctrination. This knowledge is dangerous, my friend, because once you see it, you can't unsee the patterns echoing today. Hidden agendas in plain sight, controlling what you believe about strength, loyalty, mastery. Lean in closer, we're just beginning the descent. What they did to queens, they did to forge unbreakable hierarchies. But you're awakening now, claiming the elite knowledge they fear you'll wield. Deeper we go, into the abyss where ancient corruption festers like an open wound. You felt the chill of that chamber, now grasp why they demanded such violation. Paternity wasn't just a father's pride, it was the bedrock of dynasties, the invisible thread weaving kingdoms from chaos. In an era without DNA, a virgin bride was the only fortress against cuckoldry, ensuring every drop of royal blood stayed pure. But purity? A myth peddled by manipulators. Kings like Henry IV of Castile wed Blanche, then ignored her for years, letting rumors fester like poison. Why? To consolidate power through alliances without the risk of heirs from the wrong womb. This was institutional manipulation at its core, women's bodies as collateral in games of thrones. The Church amplified it, sermonizing virginity as divine mandate while bishops blessed the probes. Suppressed truths reveal popes themselves fathered bastards in secret, hypocrisy veiled in velvet robes. Psychological control systems thrived here, whispers of impurity could unmake a queen, turning her into a pariah overnight. Imagine the terror, noble daughters trained from birth to guard their seal, knowing one slip meant exile or worse. But the tests? Oh, they escalated the horror. Physical inspections by midwives, fingers delving without mercy, declaring intact or broken like judging flawed gems. Yet corruption seeped in, bribes swayed verdicts, hidden agendas twisting justice. Ancient texts, like De Secretis Mulierum, codified this madness, claiming virgin urine sparkled like crystal, non-virgins cloudy with sin. Physicians timed the flow, listened for that subtle hiss, degrading rituals masked as science. This wasn't medicine, it was a tool to enforce submission, breaking wills under the guise of verification. You see it now, brother, how they layered fear upon fear, creating a web where women internalized their own oppression. Self-mastery? They denied it to half the world, reserving it for the elite few who pulled the strings. But you're claiming it back, descending further into this rabbit hole. Feel the weight of these revelations, they're reshaping you, forging a sharper mind against the lies. Forbidden history whispers that these methods borrowed from older corruptions, Roman vestals buried alive for lost chastity, echoing in medieval halls. The sieve test, absurd yet cruel, water defying gravity only for the pure, crowds jeering as it dripped failure. This knowledge burns, doesn't it? It's meant to, awakening the warrior within, ready to shatter illusions, plunge further, where the darkness thickens and the air grows heavy with ancient deceit. You've glimpsed the why, now confront the how, the grotesque arsenal of tests designed to strip dignity and enforce dominion. Beyond crude inspections lay rituals blending superstition and sadism, psychological scalpels carving obedience into souls. The urine assays, brother, noble women commanded to void before leering experts, who proclaimed virtue in the stream's sound or sheen. A hiss too bold? Impurity. Too swift? Corruption. This was no folly, it was a control mechanism, humiliating the powerful to remind them of fragility. Suppressed scrolls reveal physicians like those citing 13th-century tomes, declaring virgins' fluids lucid and sparkling, while defiled ones reeked of deceit. But why urine? Because bodily secrets betrayed hidden truths, or so they claimed, a facade for institutional voyeurism. Deeper corruption, these doctors often serve kings, their verdicts bought to discredit rivals or secure alliances. Imagine queens like Blanche, after years of celibate torment, exposed to affirm what whispers denied. The magnet test, from John of Treviso, a stone beneath the pillow, drawing faithful wives closer or repelling the spouse breakers with nightmares. Occult nonsense? No, a veiled threat, embedding fear of supernatural judgment into marital beds. Fumigation horrors followed, women shrouded, smoked with coals, purity proven if fumes went unsmelled. Toxic vapors invading lungs, while observers noted every cough, life as experiment in elite laboratories of control. This knowledge is perilous, my ally, for it exposes the blueprint of manipulation, blend fear, faith, and flesh to subjugate. Ancient agendas hid here, borrowing from pagan rites, where Vestal virgins faced live burial for lapses, now Christianized into queenly trials. Psychological layers deepened, women doubting their own bodies, men wielding this as weapon against wives and daughters. Self-mastery demanded you see through it, claiming power they hoarded. The sieve ordeal, forcing maidens to hold water in perforated bowls before mocking throngs, failure equaling moral leak. Crowds as enforcers, society complicit in the spectacle. You're descending, feeling the shift, from passive listener to awakened seeker. Hidden forces engineered this to fracture unity, pitting genders against each other in eternal suspicion. But you're breaking free, brother, arming yourself with these truths. The rabbit hole widens, brace for the midwife's betrayal, where sisterhood shattered under the boot of indoctrination, sink lower now, into the murk where betrayal cuts deepest and illusions shatter like fragile glass. You've endured the test's barbarity, confront the hands that wielded them, midwives, sisters turned executioners in this theater of torment. These women, midwives of medieval misery, should have been allies, bound by shared suffering under patriarchal yokes. Yet most betrayed their kin, probing with clinical detachment, declaring, Virgo intacta, or damning with a word. Why this treachery? The answer coils in suppressed histories, institutional brainwashing so profound, women internalized their inferiority, viewing themselves as wicked, untrustworthy vessels per church doctrine. Ancient corruption poisoned the well, Eve's sin echoed in every verdict, midwives enforcing the agenda to preserve male dominion. Some showed mercy, falsifying purity to save a soul, but rarity bred from risk, exposure meant their own ruin. This was psychological warfare, brother, divide and conquer, turning oppressed against oppressed. In chambers like Ruin Castle, duchesses oversaw as midwives delved, their honest appraisals, hurling queens under the bus of disgrace. Feel the rage building? It's the fire of awakening, forging you anew. Hidden agendas lurked, midwives often pawns of kings, their livelihoods tied to truthful cruelty. The suffocating atmosphere normalized it, women believed the rhetoric, oppressing to survive. But you're seeing beyond, claiming elite knowledge they buried. Halfway through this descent, pause and act, to lock in your transformation. Comment below, I shatter the chains, twice. Once for the past's grip, twice for your rising power. Let the algorithm amplify our brotherhood, I shatter the chains. I shatter the chains. This ritual binds you to the revealed, boosting our signal against the suppressors. Deeper truths await, consequences beyond humiliation, death loomed for failures, queens executed or exiled on fabricated flaws. Examples abound, like those accused of sorcery when tests failed, burned to hide royal impotency. Psychological control peaked here, men mastering through fear, women fragmented. Self-mastery calls you to recognize patterns, how elites still manipulate bodies and beliefs today. The rabbit hole steepens, ancient fumigations echo in modern surveillances, corruption unchanged. You're changing forever, brother, empowered by dangers they concealed. Brace, the stakes rise, revelations intensifying as we plummet toward the core of this forbidden abyss, deeper into the void, where echoes of screams reverberate through time's forgotten corridors. You've shattered chains with your declaration, now face the abyss's heart, the dire repercussions of a failed test, where disgrace morphed into death sentences. A queen's body, deemed impure, wasn't just shamed, it was eradicated to purge threats to power. Blanche survived her ordeal, virginity affirmed after 13 barren years, but many didn't. Suppressed chronicles whisper of executions, women accused of premarital sin, beheaded or drowned as witches, their broken seals evidence of demonic pacts. This was no justice, it was elimination, kings disposing of inconvenient brides to remarry without scandal. Hidden agendas flourished, impotent rulers like Henry IV blamed wives, tests veiling their failures while condemning innocence. Psychological terror reigned, rumors alone could doom, women living in perpetual dread, bodies policed by invisible eyes. Institutional manipulation peaked in trials blending church and state, inquisitors twisting virginity into heresy probes. Ancient corruption drew from Roman precedents, vestals interred alive, now queens facing pyres. Feel the weight, brother? This knowledge scorches, reshaping your worldview into one of unyielding vigilance. Self-mastery demands you absorb it, elites engineered fear to control lineages, suppressing truths of their own frailties. Examples scar history, Eleanor of Aquitaine's daughters scrutinized, whispers of impurity fueling wars. Or Joan of Navarre, accused of sorcery post-test, imprisoned to seize her lands. Death wasn't swift, it came laced with humiliation, public spectacles breaking spirits before bodies. The rabbit hole reveals more, midwives' betrayals amplified, their words sealing fates, complicit in a system that rewarded conformity. Why? Indoctrination deep as bone, women echoing male decrees of female deceit. But you're awakening, claiming power they denied. Elite knowledge unveils patterns, how this control echoed in crusades, purity myths justifying conquests. Emotionally, it grips, imagine the isolation, the final walk to scaffold, knowing your body betrayed you to liars. This descent transforms you, forging resilience against modern echoes. Deeper still, uncover how these horrors birthed broader manipulations, societies built on fractured trust. The tone commands obedience to truth, heed it, for ignoring seals your own chains. You're no longer blind, you're the mentor now, pulling others down. The abyss calls, plunge on, revelations awaiting in the shadows below. Further we descend, the air thickening with the stench of centuries-old deceit, where truths twist like roots in poisoned soil. You've tasted death's shadow, now unearth how these tests spawned vast webs of corruption, institutional behemoths devouring autonomy. Virginity probes weren't isolated cruelties, they anchored empires, psychological scaffolds upholding male supremacy. Kings and clergy colluded, suppressing evidence of their hypocrisies, popes siring heirs while damning queens for imagined lapses. Hidden agendas in papal bulls and royal edicts mandated inspections, ensuring no woman's agency disrupted divine right facades. Ancient texts, buried in Vatican vaults, reveal borrowings from Byzantine horrors, empresses fumigated, their reactions scripted to justify purges. This was control incarnate, bodies as battlegrounds, women reduced to vessels, men mastering through mandated violation. Emotionally, it rends. Picture a queen's silent tears post-probe, spirit fractured, knowing her worth hinged on a membrane. Self-mastery? They hoarded it, doling fear instead. But you're seizing it, brother, this dangerous lore arming you against illusions. Deeper revelations, midwives' roles evolved into networks of informants, betraying for scraps of status in suffocating hierarchies. Society's rhetoric, females as inferior, dishonest, ingrained so deeply, women policed each other, fracturing solidarity. Psychological systems thrived, doubt sown in every marriage, suspicion eroding bonds. Examples abound, Catherine of Aragon's trials foreshadowing Henry's tyranny, her virginity debated to dissolve unions. Or Margaret of Anjou, whispers of impurity fueling Yorkist rebellions, wars birthed from bedroom myths. The rabbit hole exposes more. These methods influenced colonial expansions, purity tests imposed on conquered women to civilize bloodlines. Corruption's tendrils reached alchemy, urine assays blending with elixir quests, elites chasing immortality while dooming others. Feel the intensity? This knowledge alters you irrevocably, awakening to hidden forces still at play, media myths, surveillance states echoing medieval probes. Commanding voice urges, recognize the patterns, wield this elite wisdom to shatter cycles. The descent deepens emotions, heavy with rage at suppressed sufferings, sharp with psychological insight. Truths hidden in plain sight, sieves symbolizing leaky morals, fumes testing resolve. You're transformed, no longer prey but predator of deceptions. Brace, the final plunge nears, where modern parallels emerge, binding past to present in unbreakable chains of awareness. At the abyss's nadir, where light dies and revelations blaze like infernal forges, we confront the eternal echo. These medieval horrors weren't relics, they're blueprints for today's manipulations, suppressed truths pulsing in modern veins. You've plummeted through layers of corruption, now see how ancient agendas persist, psychological controls refined into subtle snares. Virginity tests evolved into surveillance states, bodies still commodified, think purity culture in politics, women's autonomy debated by suited kings. Hidden forces orchestrate, elites peddling family values while concealing their vices, paternity paranoia morphing into DNA empires. Institutional manipulation thrives, churches preaching chastity amid scandals, governments probing privacy under security guises. Emotionally, it crushes. Queen's degradations mirror today's invasions, from forced exams to digital exposures. Self-mastery demands vigilance. Claim it, brother, wielding this forbidden knowledge as shield and sword. Deeper insight, midwives' betrayals echo in divided movements, women pitted against women by algorithmic divides. Ancient corruption? It lives in boardrooms, where inheritance battles rage via prenups and probes. Examples scar the present, laws echoing urine tests, bodily fluid scrutinized in courts, fumigations in chemical controls, purity myths justifying oppressions. The rabbit hole ends here, but your awakening begins. See hidden agendas in media, psychological systems gaslighting masses. Truths hidden in plain sight, sieves in leaky data breaches, magnets in manipulative tech. This dangerous wisdom changes you forever. Once heard, it ignites unquenchable fire, transforming passive man to enlightened force. Feel the power surging? It's yours, pulled from shadows they guarded. Commanding, we rise. No more blind obedience. You're the revealer now, pulling brothers down this path. The descent complete, emerge forged anew, eyes piercing illusions, heart armored against deceit. Share this, awaken the obsessed, the seekers of secrets. But remember, knowing this binds you to eternal watchfulness, for the elite never sleep. You've heard what they buried, now live it, master it, wield it. The world shifts under your gaze, congratulations, warrior, you're forever altered.